Today's emulation video, I will be making it on the BBC Micro, which was a computer that was introduced in 1981 by Acorn Computers, and it had a lifespan from 1981 to 1994, which is about 13 years, and the price was about £235 in 1981, and in today's money, that would be about $1,347.73 in today's money. And there were two models, the A model and the B model. The B model costs more. The B model costs about $1,890.07 in today's money. Over 1.5 million units were produced. It had a cassette drive, floppy drive, 5 1/4 inch floppy drive, 3 1/2 inch floppy drive. Even said it had a hard drive. Hard drives were pretty rare for computers of this type back in the 1980s. Laserdisc, that's interesting. It used the MOS 6502 processor, which was used in a lot of computers and video game systems. Video game systems like the Nintendo Entertainment System. Let's see what kind of computers and video game consoles use Commodore PET, Commodore 20, Commodore 64, Commodore 128, Nintendo Famicom, Nintendo Entertainment System, TurboGrafx 16, all the Ataris from Atari 2600 to 7800, Atari 800 computer, Apple II, Apple IIe, Acorn Atom. So it was a pretty popular microprocessor back in the 1980s, the MOS 6502, and it's still used, I think it's still manufactured today and used in microcontrollers and stuff like that. And basically there were a lot of peripherals for this, like there was a 3.5 inch floppy disk drive, there was a modem for it. It's called a BBC Micro Magic modem. I don't think a lot of units were sold, maybe about 12,000 units. This is the back of the BBC Micro. I think this is for the video or something, RF. There's also one for a RGB monitor. And there was something called a peripheral called the second processor 6502. It had a second MOS 6502 processor, which was an add-on to this, which could be used with a special program for it and a special cable that connected to the BBC Micro. Had dot matrix printers like all computers back in the day. It had a cassette player. This is a sample of a cassette disc. This is a 5 1/4 inch floppy disk drive for the BBC Micro. This is a dual deck 3 1/2 inch floppy disk drive for the BBC Micro. And those were the kind of peripherals you could expect for a computer of this generation. If you want to get the emulator, it's right here on this website. I'll leave it in the video descriptions below so you can download your copy. So I downloaded this copy. There are ones for different operating systems as well, like for Linux, Apple OS, PlayStation, Portable, and other platforms, RISC-Port OS. But I'll be downloading this one because I'm using Windows 11 on my computer. And as for the software, you could find it in various sites. You could find it here on archive.org. This has a lot of programs and games for the BBC Micro. Probably every BBC Micro game and program that ever existed for it. If you don't want to download all that, you can go here and download individual programs for it. Or you could go to My Abandonware and go to BBC Micro and download games here if you want. I'm not very familiar with the games for the BBC Micro because I never had a BBC Micro. And you had to have lived in the United Kingdom back in the 1980s to actually have access to this computer, which I didn't, which I wasn't able to because I didn't live in that part of the world. You could download the games here. I guess there are some ports that are similar to the ports that were released in other parts of the world, like Space Invaders, stuff like that. I'm not really familiar with the games for this system. I'll download a few games and I shall try them out. Micro version. Rush in attack. Okay. I know what that is. Snapper. I guess that's like Pac-Man or something. It's not called Pac-Man, it's called Snapper. There are some that are uniquely British titles like Spitfire. Never heard of that game. It's released by Microsoft, I'd say. Mirrorsoft, okay. Okay, that's enough. I got a couple of games. I'm going to extract my emulator here. It's called a Beebem 403. Put it here to this test folder, and I will put the games here and extract them. I guess there are discs and tapes. So the disk files are called SSD. Some of them work, some of them do not. So I'm going to put all the versions on here just in case, because I don't know which ones work. Some don't work. Okay. Monster is kind of like Load Runner or something. It's kind of like that. Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Okay, that's enough. So I'm going to start the emulator. You don't need any BIOS files or anything like that. You could just run it. It's going to ask you to create a folder. And this folder is going to be right here. Under here. Create a shortcut. That's my desktop. Now it started. First things you want to do is you want to set some of the controls. You want to go to Options, Define User Key Mapping. This key isn't there like on your modern keyboard, so you're going to have to bind it. So I'm going to click on that, left click. I'm going to click on right above that, I'm going to click on the apostrophe and then click OK, left click OK like that. And now the control should be set. It should be ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to this folder. This is for discs games. I'm going to put games here. Back here. Just get all my games right here, just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to load a game. See what we could do here. Change the resolution. You could also go into full screen mode. That's Alt Enter to get out. I'm not going to do that because my DVR has some problems when I go into full screen mode with emulators like this. I'm just letting you know. Okay, now it's bigger. I think that's better. It's too big. Let's make it about that. Okay, now let's go to Run Disk. Here. Let's try playing Space Invaders. Space Intruders. That one didn't work, so let's try the next one. Try that. And now it works. So for this game, it's Z and C. C is to move right. Z is to move left. Shooting is enter. Controls are kind of weird for this computer. Because in most computers, to move left or right was just a left and right mouse. I mean a keyboard cursor, but not for this. Kind of awkward. Have to get used to it. Okay, let's load another game. Let's load Monster. So that's a bad disk. Let's try that. That one works. C, left, X, right. It tells you what the controls are. Up and down. Okay. The reason why I changed the asterisk key was because the asterisk key on a modern keyboard is Shift 8. That's why I changed the asterisk key. Let's start. Spacebar to start. Let me change this again. I want to use user map define keys. Make sure that's selected. It's not going to work. Okay, now it works. Alright, so try to run another game. Green Beret, see if that works. Let's see if I can change the controls here to make it more like a regular control. Let's put Z, left arrow, okay. X, right arrow, okay. Up arrow, okay. Down arrow, okay. Alright, let's see if that works. Now I could use a cursor. I mean, the arrow keys, which is a little bit better, I'd say. This game is just terrible. Okay, let me get out of here. This is just freaking terrible. Do we have any other games here? Something like Missile Command. That seems very familiar to me. Let's try Missile Command. See if it's user defined. Okay, this is selected. We have to configure the controls for this. Let's try something else. Up, down. Okay, up, down. O and P. O was left. Okay, that's kind of odd. Let's go. No, I don't. Okay, that's enough. So you get the basic idea on how to change the controls, run the games, and stuff like that. That's pretty much concludes this tutorial. If you have any questions or if you know about the BBC Micro in more detail, you could leave it in the comment section below, and thanks for